Let's talk about something that too many people fall for, and it's time to wake up. It's the fake apology. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment when a narcissist says they're sorry, but somehow you walk away feeling worse. You don't feel heard, you don't feel respected, you feel manipulated. And that's not by accident, that is by design, because when a narcissist says, I'm sorry, it's never about taking responsibility. It's not about accountability. It's not about growth. It's about control. It's about keeping you on the hook. It's about resetting the game so they can keep playing you. You hear phrases like, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I said I was sorry, what more do you want? And boom, just like that, the blame is back on you. That is not an apology. That's gaslighting wrapped in a pretty little bow. It's a tactic, a trick, a way to manipulate you into staying in a toxic cycle because they know your heart. They know you want peace. They know you want to forgive. So they offer up this hollow apology, not because they care, but because they want you quiet. They want you doubting yourself. They want you to move on without consequences for them. And let me tell you something, when someone keeps hurting you and just keeps saying sorry without changing their behavior, that's not remorse. That's repetition. That is a red flag screaming at you that you're in a one-sided relationship where your emotions are a tool to be used against you. You are not crazy for wanting closure. You are not weak for wanting to fix things. But you need to get real about what's happening. A real apology doesn't come with excuses. It doesn't blame you. It comes with action. It comes with changed behavior. It comes with respect. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because narcissists are masters at saying just enough to keep you hanging on, just enough to make you second guess leaving, just enough to keep you thinking. But maybe this time it'll be different, but it won't be. Not with someone who uses apologies as weapons. Not with someone who says, I'm sorry, and then turns around and does the same thing next week. You deserve better than that. You deserve relationships where apologies come with healing, where words match actions, where love is real, not manipulative. And yes, that starts with you, with setting boundaries, with seeing the game for what it is, with deciding that your peace is more valuable than someone else's drama. So the next time you hear that weak, half-baked apology that leaves you more confused than comforted, don't fall for it. Watch what they do next. Because the truth, a narcissist doesn't apologize to repair the damage. They apologize to reset the stage so they can keep being the star of your life story. Let's get one thing straight. When a narcissist says, I'm sorry, it's not because they feel bad about what they did. It's not coming from a place of reflection, growth, or accountability. It's a strategy. It's a tool. It's a tactic designed to get you to back off, to quiet down, and to stay hooked. That's it. And until you recognize that, you're going to keep falling for the same emotional bait over and over again. Now, let me paint you a picture. You're hurt. You bring it up. Maybe you cry. Maybe you explain calmly. Maybe you shout because you've been pushed to the edge. And what does the narcissist do? They offer up an apology that looks and sounds like remorse on the surface. Maybe they drop their voice. Maybe they even make eye contact. They might say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. And for a second, just a second, you breathe. You feel a flicker of relief. You think, finally, they get it. But then, what happens next? There's no change. The same behavior shows up a few days later, maybe even the very next day. And when you call them out again, they act like you're the problem for bringing it up. I already said I was sorry. They'll snap. Why can't you let it go? That is a manipulation. That's what a fake apology looks like. It's not rooted in empathy. It's not about healing. It's about resetting the playing field. It's about keeping you in the cycle of doubt, self-blame, and emotional dependence. The apology isn't the end of the behavior, it's the reset button, and narcissists know exactly how to use it. You have to understand this is calculated. Narcissists are highly attuned to your needs. They know you value emotional connection. They know you seek closure. They know you're probably someone who believes in forgiveness and second chances, so they craft their words to fit that mold, not because they believe what they're saying, but because they believe you believe it. That's the trick. Real apologies come with vulnerability. Real apologies come with humility. Real apologies come with a desire to do better, not just say better. When someone is genuinely sorry, they're more focused on how they made you feel than on protecting their own ego. But a narcissist, their sorry is performative. It's like a magic trick. It draws your attention to one hand, while the other hand is already reaching to pull the same stunt tomorrow. So here's the wake-up call if the words sound right, but the behavior never changes. It's not an apology, it's a performance. And once you start recognizing that pattern, you can stop giving those fake apologies the power to sway you. You can start standing firm in what you feel and stop letting them use your own emotional intelligence against you. They're not sorry, they're strategic, and you deserve more than someone who uses the word sorry like a pause button instead of a turning point. You know what's really dangerous about a narcissist apology? It's not just that it's fake, it's that it flips the script. You walk in thinking you're about to have a heart-to-heart, maybe some closure, maybe even a breakthrough. But instead, what you get is an emotional judo move where you end up on the floor questioning your own reality. That's the power of a deflecting apology, and narcissists are absolute pros at it. Let's break this down. When a narcissist says something like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," it sounds like an apology, right? There's the word sorry. There's emotion in their voice, maybe even a little sigh or a sad expression. But here's what's really happening under the surface. They're not apologizing for what they did. They're blaming you for how you felt about it. That's not empathy. That's deflection. They're not owning their actions. They're turning the spotlight on you, your reaction, your feelings, your sensitivity. And suddenly, instead of discussing what they did, the conversation becomes about whether you're being too emotional or too dramatic. You start defending your feelings. You start second guessing whether you even have a right to be upset. You start pulling back your own boundaries just to keep the peace. Oh, and that's exactly what they want. This kind of deflection is so subtle, it's almost invisible. It sneaks into your mind and rewrites the narrative without you even realizing it. You're no longer dealing with the issue. You're now trying to justify your response to the issue. And that shift, that's where the real damage happens. Because here's the truth: when someone genuinely hurts you, the appropriate response is for them to say, "I'm sorry I hurt you. I take responsibility. I want to fix it. Period. Full stop." Anything that sounds like, "I'm sorry you're upset," or "I didn't mean it like that," or "you always take things the wrong way," is not an apology. It's a deflection designed to make you question yourself and them look like the reasonable one. And let me be clear, this isn't about making mistakes. We all screw up. We all say things we regret. But the difference between someone who genuinely cares and a narcissist is what they do next. A real person owns their stuff. A narcissist rewrites it to make you the villain of a story they created. So how do you deal with this? You stop playing the game. You stop explaining your emotions like you're on trial. You start recognizing that when someone refuses to take responsibility, that is the issue, not your reaction to it. You start calling it out, not necessarily to them, but to yourself. You say, "That's not an apology. That's deflection. I see it. I'm not falling for it." Because the minute you see the pattern, you can break free from it. You can stop giving your power away to someone who's just using emotional language to dodge accountability. You deserve conversations that lead to clarity, not confusion. You deserve relationships where you feel seen, not spun around in circles, and you better believe it starts the moment you stop mistaking deflection for sincerity. Let's get brutally honest. Words mean nothing if the behavior doesn't change. You can tell me you're sorry 100 times, but if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's not an apology, it's emotional manipulation dressed up in pretty language. And narcissists, they are absolute experts at using words as shields while their actions scream the complete opposite. You see, narcissists rely on a cycle. It goes something like this: they hurt you, they apologize just enough to reel you back in, and then they do it all again. It's not about changing, it's not about growing, it's about maintaining control. Every time they say they're sorry but nothing in their behavior shifts, they're showing you exactly who they are. They're not confused, they're not struggling. They're choosing not to change because it's working for them. And here's the trap: you want to believe them. Of course you do. You're wired for connection. You're compassionate. You believe in growth, in second chances, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's not a weakness. That's a strength. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, that strength gets used against you, because every time you accept the apology without change, you're reinforcing their cycle. You're unintentionally teaching them that they don't have to actually change. They just have to say the right words. Let me say that again because it's huge. A narcissist learns that they don't need to change their behavior. They just need to get better at saying what you want to hear. And that's where the mind games begin. You start thinking, maybe I'm being too hard on them. They said they were sorry, shouldn't that be enough? Or they had a tough childhood. They're doing their best, and while context matters, it doesn't excuse a pattern. A real apology leads to changed behavior. A fake apology leads to more pain. That's the difference. That's the truth. So what does real change look like? It looks like consistency. It looks like accountability. It looks like someone owning up to their actions and then taking real steps to ensure they don't do it again. It looks like difficult conversations, vulnerability, and the courage to face their own flaws. And if you're not seeing that, if you're hearing sorry, but the same disrespect, blame, shifting, and manipulation continue, then guess what? It was never a real apology. Narcissists use sorry as a pressure release valve. It's just enough to ease the tension so they can continue doing what benefits them. It's a pause in the chaos, not a solution. And the only way to stop the cycle is to recognize the difference between an apology and a performance. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they said the right words. You owe yourself the strength to look past the words and hold people accountable to their actions, because you teach people how to treat you, not with what you say, but with what you tolerate. And if someone keeps saying sorry, but keeps hurting you, it's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to decide whether you're going to keep letting it happen. You deserve more than recycled apologies and repeated pain. You deserve growth. You deserve truth. And you deserve real change, not just empty words. Let me tell you something that a lot of people talk about enough. When a narcissist says, "I'm sorry," and then immediately turns the spotlight onto you, that is not an apology. That is a manipulation tactic. It's called flipping the script. And it is one of the most toxic, confusing, emotionally exhausting games that narcissists play. And if you don't see it for what it is, you'll find yourself stuck in a cycle of guilt, doubt, and self-blame. Here's how it works. A narcissist does something that clearly hurts you. Maybe they insult you, ignore your boundaries, lie, or betray your trust. You confront them, you're calm, you're open, you're honest, and you're hoping for accountability. And at first, it might seem like you're getting it. They say, "I'm sorry." And right when you're about to breathe a sigh of relief and think, maybe we're making progress, they add, "But you made me do it." That one little sentence changes everything. "I'm sorry I snapped, but you were nagging me." "I'm sorry I lied, but you would have overreacted." "I'm sorry I hurt you, but you're too sensitive." Do you see what just happened? They hijacked the apology and twisted it into an attack. Instead of owning their behavior, they reframe the situation so you are the one at fault. It's no longer about the damage they caused. It's about how you provoked it. And that's the trap. Because now you're not talking about what they did. You're defending your reaction, your tone, your timing, your right to feel hurt in the first place. It's a masterclass in psychological manipulation. And what's worse, you start believing it. You think, maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe this is partly my fault. And once that doubt creeps in, they've got you. They've avoided responsibility, and they've convinced you to carry the emotional weight of their actions. Let me make this clear. This is not a real apology. A real apology does not come with conditions. It doesn't blame the other person. It doesn't rewrite the narrative to make the victim the villain. A real apology is about owning up, period. It's about saying, "I hurt you, and that was wrong, and here's what I'm doing to make sure I never do it again." That's it. When someone constantly follows, "I'm sorry," with excuses, justifications, or finger pointing, what they're actually doing is training you to tolerate their abuse. They're turning the conversation into a performance, one where you walk away feeling confused, ashamed, and somehow responsible for your own mistreatment. You are not the problem for expecting accountability. You are not the problem for being hurt. And you are definitely not the problem for having boundaries. The moment you realize that, you take your power back, you stop dancing around their emotions, and you start protecting your own. Because if someone's apology makes you feel worse instead of better, that's your red flag. That's your wake-up call. You're not being loved. You're being manipulated. And you deserve more than that. You deserve the truth even when it's uncomfortable. You deserve growth even when it's messy. And you deserve people who take responsibility, not people who flip the script and call it love. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating, disorienting, and toxic patterns narcissists rely on: using fake apologies to reset the relationship without ever addressing the damage they caused. It's like emotional amnesia they're trying to impose on you. They hurt you. You call it out. They toss a weak, "I'm sorry," your way. maybe with a little fake humility, maybe a big display of emotion, and then boom, they expect everything to go back to normal. No discussion, no accountability, no real change. Just press reset, move on, forget it happened. And if you don't forget, if you still want to talk about it or need time to heal, suddenly you're the problem. You're too sensitive, you're holding on to things, you're never satisfied. It's maddening. Let's be honest here. An apology that expects instant forgiveness is not about healing, it's about control. Narcissists don't apologize to rebuild trust. They apologize to shut you up, to silence your pain. The fact is, and to sweep their behavior under the rug so they can keep doing it. And that's what makes this so dangerous, because it's not just about avoiding responsibility. It's about resetting the emotional playing field to benefit them. You've probably felt this, right? That weird pressure to move on, even though your heart is still bleeding. That confusion when they act like everything is fine while you're still spinning from what just happened. That internal tug of war between wanting to believe in their apology and knowing deep down that nothing's really changed. This is what I need you to hear loud and clear. You do not owe anyone instant forgiveness. Not when they've hurt you. Not when they've crossed your boundaries. Not when they've made you question your worth, your sanity, or your reality. Healing takes time, trust takes time, and real change takes work. If someone offers you a 2-second apology and expects a complete reset, that's not love. That's manipulation. Because here's the truth. When a narcissist resets the relationship with a fake apology, they're not just skipping the work of healing. They're rewriting the story. They want you to pretend the damage didn't happen. And if you dare to bring it up again later, now you're bringing up the past, you're causing drama, you're never letting things go, and you start questioning yourself. You wonder, am I too much? Am I the one holding this relationship back? That's how the gaslighting seeps in. That's how they keep you emotionally off balance, because now you're too busy second guessing yourself to hold them accountable. Let me tell you something. Healing from emotional pain is not on a schedule, and forgiveness is not a reset button someone else gets to push. You get to decide when you're ready. You get to ask the hard questions. You get to expect real change, and if someone's not willing to sit with you in the discomfort of growth, if they just want to skip to the part where you pretend everything's fine, that's not someone who respects you. That's someone who uses apologies to erase their wrongdoings instead of facing them. You are not difficult for needing time. You are not dramatic for asking for honesty. You are not broken for feeling pain. You're human. And anyone who truly values you will never expect you hit reset just to make them comfortable. Here's the truth. Real love, real